Willow Creek, Oregon, was the kind of town where people still left their doors unlocked and smiled at strangers. Tucked between evergreen hills and winding creeks, it seemed like nothing bad could ever happen there. But everything changed on the morning of September 12, 2022, when Lila Monroe, the principal of Willow Creek High School, didn't show up for work. She was never late. Her assistant called her repeatedly. When the calls went unanswered, a concerned teacher drove by her house. The lights were off. No car in the driveway. By noon, police were involved. By nightfall, her disappearance had shattered the illusion of safety in the tight-knit town. Lila wasn't just a principal. She was a heart of Willow Creek, known for her kindness, her sharp intellect, and her unwavering support of her students. She had recently been awarded Educator of the Year for the state. She was a mentor, a friend, and for many kids, the only adult who ever listened. When detectives found her car abandoned on a Forest Service road near Fairview Woods, alarms blared. The driver's door was open. A still warm coffee cup sat in the console. Her reading glasses were neatly folded on the seat. There were no signs of a struggle, no tracks, no blood. At first, police theorized she had been abducted by a stranger, perhaps someone hiding in the woods. But Fairview was miles from any major highway. It was not a place one stumbled upon. Investigators quickly realized this wasn't a random crime. Someone who knew Lila or her habits had lured her there. Detective Maya Cortez was assigned the case. Smart, calm, and relentless, Cortez began piecing together Lila's last known days. What she found disturbed her. Though Lila had a glowing reputation, something in her private life had shifted. Phone records showed repeated late-night calls to a burner phone. Her bank account revealed 2 large withdrawals, one in cash, the other to a private investigator named George Haskins in Bend, Oregon. Cortez paid Haskins a visit. She thought someone was stealing from the school. Haskins said. She didn't trust the board. Hired me to dig. Gave me one name, Janet Rourke. Janet was the school's vice principal. Ambitious, efficient, and recently passed over for a superintendent promotion, one that had instead been offered to Lila. She and Lila had worked side by side for nearly a decade. The betrayal must have stung. The more Cortez investigated, the darker things became. The school district had recently received a large federal grant, part of an education recovery initiative post-pandemic. But audits showed inconsistencies. Some of the funds had vanished, redirected to a shell corporation. Emails retrieved from Lila's school account, found in her drafts folder, hinted at the storm brewing beneath her calm surface. Janet, I have the evidence. You know what you've done. If you resign quietly, I won't take it to board. They trusted you. I trusted you. If I disappear, know that someone has the files. Janet was brought in for questioning. At first, she was indignant. Lila and I had our differences, sure, but I would never harm her. Cortez pressed harder. GPS data showed Janet's phone in the vicinity of Fairview was the morning of the disappearance. Security footage from a gas station 10 miles away showed her car around 5:15 a.m., earlier than she ever left for work. Faced with mounting evidence, Janet broke. She admitted to meeting Lila that morning, claiming it was to talk her out of turning everything into a scandal. She was emotional. Janet said, "We argued. She slipped on the trail, hit her head. I panicked." But the autopsy told a different story. When Lila's body was recovered 2 days later, buried beneath pine needles and soft earth, the coroner found ligature marks on her wrists and evidence of blunt force trauma, deliberate, not accidental. She had fought back. Janet was arrested for second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. The town mourned. At Lila's funeral, students gave tearful eulogies. Teachers clung to each other. And Detective Cortez, who had seen dozens of crime scenes, felt something break inside her as the choir sang Lila's favorite hymn. But the story wasn't over. 6 months later, a manila envelope arrived anonymously at the Willow Creek Police Department. Inside were photocopies of emails, this time not from Janet, but from 2 members of the school board. In them, they encouraged Janet to handle the situation with discretion and avoid any fallout before the federal audit. They knew about the embezzlement. They had covered it up. and they had pushed Janet to silence Lila before the truth came out. The case reopened. Charges were filed against the board members. Janet, now facing life without parole, refused to speak further. But a final twist emerged. Lila had mailed those emails to a friend days before her death, with instructions to release them only if something happened. Lila Monroe had prepared for her own demise. She wasn't naive. She had known what she was up against. In her name, the town created a scholarship fund for students who embodied the values Lila stood for: courage, honesty, and self-sacrifice. Her office at Willow Creek High was preserved exactly as she left it. A quiet tribute to a woman who refused to let corruption hide in the shadows. And though her voice was silenced, her message lived on,